Welcome to Sobriety, Social Media, and Self-Love with Kelly Uchima. To kick us off, we're going to engage with an icebreaker using Mentimeter. If everyone can click the link in the chat, you'll be taken to our icebreaker where you can submit your responses to a question. You can also go to the Menti website and type in the code on your phone if that's easier. Once you've submitted your response, a word cloud will be formed and we'll get to see which responses were the most popular. For the first question, it is, what are some ways you have practiced self-care this week? Some ways were drinking water, skincare, boba, napping, hanging with friends, chilling with the fam, taking a walk, reading a book, family. Those are all very great. Eating properly, nails. The next question is, what words come to mind when you think about mental health? Some of the responses were meditate, balance, depression therapy, healthy, emotions, mindset, anxiety, self-love, brave, physiological. Okay. Thank you everyone for participating. Now I'm going to pass it over to Gabby for some housekeeping.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you, Malika, for leading us in the icebreaker. My name is Gabby, she, her, hers, and I'm just going to be going over some Zoom housekeeping today. So please keep your mics muted until the Q&A session. We encourage you to turn on your cameras so we can engage in the space. And feel free to use the reaction buttons and the chat box to express yourself. And just a heads up, this event will be recorded. And so now I'm going to pass it over to Isabel, who's going to lead us in a little bit information on Peer Health Exchange.
Thank you, Gabby. And hello, my name is Isabel Planes. Pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm going to share information about our organization, which is Peer Health Exchange. So our mission at Peer Health Exchange is to build healthier communities with young people. Together, we create education opportunities for peers to share the tools and resources young people need to make healthy decisions. Our vision is that together with our partners, we will advance healthy equity and improve health outcomes for young people in under-resourced communities. Young people are struggling. More than one in 3 high school students had experienced persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness even before the pandemic. Almost a third of young people, Reports are showing the mental health related emergency rooms visits are up 31% in the pandemic. Black, Latinx, and LGBTQ plus young people are even at higher risk. So here at Pure Health Exchange, we provide a health equity curriculum to young people across the US. We educate young people in sexual health, mental health, and substance use to increase help-seeking behavior. We empower young people to make active, informed decisions that contribute to better life and health outcomes. We meet young people where they are, and in doing so, we created a website and a phone app called SelfSee. SelfSee provides young folks like me with support, resources, and stories from other young adults. The app was designed together by young people, for young people, and we encourage anyone who is seeking for supportive and inclusive community to download the app today. So today we are partnering with Kelly Uchima in an effort to continue supporting all young people wherever and whenever they need it, whoever they are. So thank you for letting me share a little bit about Pure Health Exchange. And now I'm happy to pass it over to Sharon for our main events.
Hi guys, hi Kelly. So my name is Sharon Hernandez, pronouns she, hers, and hers. I'm very excited to be introducing our guest today, Kelly Uchima. Kelly is an Asian American mental health advocate, lifestyle, and beauty influencer. She is best known for her fearless approach when it comes to stigmas, topics such as therapy and recovery. Over the last 9 years, Kelly's social media has evolved into an inspirational safe space to share all things fashion, beauty, and self-care. Kelly found her passionate for sharing her truth on social media. She amazed a loyal Instagram and YouTube audience, documenting her journey through mental health, body positivity, eating disorder recovery with over 130,000 internet friends. And in 2018, she created the Instagram plus YouTube series Therapy Thursday to share how meaningful connecting with the most raw, vulnerable parts of yourselves can be. In 2021, she turned this into a hit podcast. She was given keynote speeches at prestigious universities, spoken at national eating disorder associations, walks, and at Dove's first ever virtual global summit, and most recently VidCon. Kelly's compassionate and inclusive platform reminds her followers that they are never alone. Through her vulnerable and relatable content, she affirms her followers that it's not just you. And now, please help me welcome Kelly Uchima and Youth Advisory Board member Jolene Wong for Sobriety and social media and self-care.
Thank you, Sharon. Hi, my name is Jolene and I go by she, her pronouns. I'll be starting the interview with Kelly by starting with personal life. So the first question we're going to ask is, what are some of the pros and cons to being a content creator?
First, I just want to say hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I really want you all to get something out of this. So I know it's going to be these amazing people asking me questions, but I really hope that you'll feel connected or I can connect with you. And just before I answer, I just want to check in. How is everyone doing? If you can drop in the chat box, just say, you can type a number 1 for more okay, and then you can type 2 for less okay. And then we can go ahead. I just want everyone to feel like they're a part of it and seeing, okay, I've got some more okays. Wow. I'll wait for a couple more to chime in, and if not. But that's a really good question. Thank you so much, Jolene. I would say the pros are definitely, I don't know about you all, but when I was growing up, even in high school and college, it was really hard for me to make friends. I was just very insecure. And I think that prevented me from ever wanting to connect with people or feeling worthy of people connecting with me. And I loved the internet. I would just like get lost on like Tumblr, YouTube, Facebook, and kind of just watch a lot of people live. And I was secretly struggling a lot with like an eating disorder, binge eating specifically. I had no idea what anxiety and depression was. So I think me starting to share that online was, one, a cry for help, and two, I just felt safer meeting people who could say, yes, same, I struggle like this too, without coming face to face, because I couldn't even tell that to my own parents or my sister. I didn't have the words for it. I didn't understand. So that's the biggest pro, is that I found friends and community and a place where I didn't feel intimidated to share who I really was. The cons of it are, I think there is just pressure that I feel to share my life and share my story, but it's not really a con to me. I think sometimes just the pressure that it's a never ending beast you have to feed. You all know that. You're on Instagram, TikTok, and all that stuff. So sometimes it can just make me question my own worth, like my numbers and how many followers I have, or how much money can I make from, this is a full-time job for me now. So those are the cons, that your income is based on your personality, which is weird.
Thank you for sharing. I actually relate a lot to the pros of finding a community online, and I also completely agree with the cons, even though I don't really have as much experience as you. But moving on to our second question, we have, how has your private life been affected from having a large platform?
I think that, so I've been doing social media for like 10 years. I'm 29 years old right now. And when I was 19, I was a sophomore in college, struggling so much with binge eating and stuff. So I just started really living more online. So yes, it's affected my personal life in terms of whatever I do in my real life, I post about online. And not everything. There are lots of things that I keep to myself, boundaries, but it's very normal to me. But the problem with that is that because it's so normal, it's very hard for me to understand, to detach. Like my phone, I'm always using my eyes like a camera lens. And I'm sure a lot of you do that too. Like if you're looking at something cool, if you're at a cool place, you're drinking something cool, eating something yummy, you just want to like share that with other people. And that is the strange thing about not knowing how to balance like a personal life and sharing online. But once again, I love it. Like, but one thing that I notice about feeling like sometimes your online friends or your followers are really still on your phone, and they can prevent you from understanding. You still need to build those in real life connections, hug people, talk to people face to face in real life, go on walks, be breathing out in the real world, not just talking to people through a screen. It is definitely not fulfilling enough for us as human beings. And it's really hard when we're all doing it. When I pick up my phone, someone else picks up the phone, and then it's just like a chain reaction. So just the reminder that we have to get off the screens, and it's hard for me.
Yeah, it's hard for me too, but thank you for the reminder. I'll definitely take it into consideration and keep it in the back of my head. But our next question is, how do you maintain a work-life balance?
Scheduling, I think. So for example, right now, I'm not in my home. I'm actually in Joshua Tree in California. It's like a desert destination where there are a lot of like Airbnbs to rent. And I'm here because I'm shooting a brand deal. And I rented this place with like my own money because I have a brand deal with this really amazing brand, and actually brought my boyfriend, who's also my photographer and videographer, and my mom. You guys, nobody knows this yet. Only you guys know. No one knows I have this brand deal yet. And it's really exciting. And so that's basically like the last 2 days we've been here just working. We come out here, but the balance of it is we film and shoot and edit for like maybe 5 to 6 hours of the day, and the rest of it, like the phone and the laptop, goes away, and we sit outside, we have dinner, we have a fire, but the best part, and I'm very lucky, I like my work and I really like to create, but all of you too, right? You creating boundaries with work and real life, it is hard because the way we make money, the way we feel successful is by completing our work, and we really just have to do it. But it is helpful to have a deadline during the day, like, okay, I have to check out.
Thank you so much for answering. I also agree, and I feel like your words had a lot of meaning, but now I'm going to be passing it to Malika, who's going to be asking questions about sobriety.
Okay, so my first question is, what led you to make the decision to quit smoking?
So I think I was 16 when I started smoking weed. I was born and raised in Chicago. I went to Walter Payton College Prep, which is like a city school, a public school. And that's just kind of something we did. Like, I mean, it was pretty normal. Like everyone drank and smoked, but I was very afraid to do it because I don't know, I was just new to it. And I really liked how numbing it felt for me, how I instantly felt lighter, how I felt like it was easier to talk to people. But the thing that's really fascinating about my addiction to smoking weed was I was a binge eater, right? And a lot of you know that, maybe you don't know. So I'll say binge eating, of course, is like you just eat a lot of food and you can't stop. But I really did it because it helped me numb out from the world. I hated it. It did not feel good. I felt bad about myself, but it was a numbing behavior. So when I found weed, it really did the same thing. And unfortunately, I put both of them together. So I was addicted to binging every single night, honestly, since the age of 12. So, when I found weed when I was 16, I really started doing them together so I wouldn't feel guilty about the binge eating. And I also wouldn't really have to deal with the after effects of binge eating, because when you're high, you don't feel a lot of negative effects. You're really just like floating around in the air and chilling. Unfortunately, because I also didn't understand what anxiety was or depression, I really leaned on weed to calm myself down every single night. Like I smoked weed for 10 years, every single night, to help me go to sleep, also to help me socialize. There was a point in my life where I felt like every guy that I went on a date with had to be a pothead because I classified myself as a pothead. So fast forward now, if you all don't know, I'm 29 years old. I've been sober for 2 years and 2 months. And I had to quit because it was during the pandemic in 2020. I was living alone, miserable, getting high all day, all night. Wasn't good for me. And I could tell I was miserable. And I told my therapist, and I actually had been seeing this therapist for 5 years and hadn't been brave enough to tell her because I think I was secretly ashamed. I know there's nothing wrong with smoking weed, but I could tell I had shame because why wouldn't I tell her that I did it every day? There you go.
What steps did you take to pursue sobriety?
You don't have to do what I did, but I literally did go cold turkey. This was June 21st of 2020. I just one night decided I am done. It was literally at like midnight. I have this app on my phone. It's called I Am Sober. And I downloaded it on that day, and you can set a pledge, and you can do pledges for anything on this app. It's really cool. You can do it for like, I pledge to do this or stop doing this. It doesn't have to be weed, alcohol, nothing. It can be any behavior in your life. And, so I decided, and all the things that I would use to smoke weed, like whether it was a vape pen, whether it was little bowls or one hitters, like I put it all in a bag and I put it in my closet. And I decided that weekend I would just throw it all away. And that's really hard to do. I know cold turkey is not really the best option for other people, but I just knew that it wasn't doing anything for me. And to keep myself accountable, I told other people. I think that's very important when you're struggling with something and you actually want to change your behavior. You can't just commit only to yourself. It is important to have support, community, whether it's a friend, a parent, a family member, or a therapist or a counselor. It is really helpful to work through any shame or embarrassment or fear that you have by getting support. And honestly, I don't know of anyone who would be not proud of you for taking a step for yourself. And I had to convince myself of that. So that's what I did.
Thank you. My last question is, did you face any difficulties with withdrawal?
Oh God, yeah. It was so hard to sleep. I mean, I've been doing this every night for 10 years, right? It was so hard to sleep. I was incredibly anxious. I felt a big sense of loss and sadness, which is really strange because I didn't realize how deep my relationship with weed was, right? It's just a substance. It's just like a fun little thing I do every night. But that's the point. It's such a big part of my life. After I come home from work, I was working at the University of Illinois at the time in a research job, pretty high stress job, also doing social media on the side the whole time. And every day after work, I would come home and get high. So I felt very lost. And even trying to fall asleep in my bedroom, I started feeling deep sadness. Like feelings would come up that I was really uncomfortable with. And I'm like, nothing bad's really happening in my life. Why am I sad? Why am I lonely? Why am I angry? Because weed any substance you're using helps you numb the feelings you're actually having. So the hardest thing with withdrawal for me was just experiencing life again, like being real and raw.
Thank you so much for your answers. I'm going to be passing it on to Sharon, who will be talking about self-love.
Okay, my questions are about self-love. How has your contact about body positivity uplifted other people?
I was actually very self-conscious when I started talking about like body positivity and that sort of thing online, just because I am like 4'11". I am conventionally on the smaller side. But my take on body positivity and body image more so was that I struggled so much with an eating disorder since I was 10 years old. And my journey has had all these different arcs. I was anorexic, then I was binge eating, then I was bulimic, then I was just obsessed with exercise. I've kind of done a lot of different angles with it. And no matter what you look like, your struggle with your relationship with your body is so prevalent amongst, gosh knows, everyone. And it affects every part of your life. And I think by pursuing therapy and sharing those lessons online, I was able to contribute more to the conversation rather than just love your body and love your cellulite, because I don't have all these stretch marks or cellulite, but I have deep inner emotional wounds. And I loved talking about, why is your relationship so hard with your body in life when you look fine? That was a really important for me to talk about, because I felt so deeply insecure and ashamed and yucky. Frankly, I just felt yucky in my own body. And it was all mental and emotional and trauma and other things in my life, like unhealthy relationships, an unhealthy relationship with myself, toxic family dynamics. Like, what are the things that caused me to have an eating disorder at 10 years old? It's probably not so much the way I look, but more so what was going on at home. And that's what my therapist really taught me.
Thank you, Kelly. Sorry.
That's okay. So cute.
Do you think posting about content helps with understanding yourself more, or does it change the way you think yourself based on comments?
I do think that people on social media are so smart, and I learned so much from anyone who comments. You know, I'm very lucky. I don't really get many negative comments. I do learn a lot from people, and I think I've used social media as kind of an accountability piece, whether it was my eating disorder recovery, my image, my view of myself and my body, or sobriety. I feel like social media has been a big motivator for me to be my healthiest, self-loving self, because if I want to encourage people to connect with their deepest parts and open up to their vulnerabilities and really face themselves with compassion, I literally have to do the same, because I will not be able to engage in these conversations or create content that hits them if I'm not doing the work. And that's like the best benefit of being this type of content creator and having this kind of audience, is it's almost like we're a little accountability group back and forth. And it's really, really powerful.
Thank you for answering that, Kelly. My last question. If you can tell your younger self how to practice self-care, what would you tell her?
I would say that the uncomfortable feelings, the sadness, the anger, the insecurity that I have isn't things that are bad. I think that the reason I started to hate myself and start having an eating disorder and start beating my body up and starting to do all these behaviors that frankly were hurting me was because I felt like there were parts of me that were bad. And this is something my therapist taught me. There are parts of us that we don't like, right? We have the parts where our talent, our hard work, our sportiness, and then things we don't like, or maybe how sensitive we are, or we might have a short temper, or we're insecure about this. If we can look at the different parts of us as simply parts and integrate them all and stop categorizing different parts of us, then we will be able to find self-compassion for ourselves as a whole. If we only like certain things about ourselves as kids, as teens, as adults, it's pretty hard to move forward every day.
Thank you for answering that, Kelly. Our next, I think I'm going to pass it to Isabel, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Sharon.
you, Kelly.
So my question is going to be regarding mental health. And my first question is, how did therapy support you in maintaining your mental health?
I started therapy because I wanted to fix my binge eating. And I think that's how a lot of us start therapy, is we think that there's something bad about us that needs to be changed. And I think starting therapy helped me realize what therapy even was. And if anyone of you is interested in therapy or totally not interested, this will be interesting to you. Therapy is simply a place where you are able to be your full self. You can express yourself. It's just a sounding board for your life. You get to finally get in touch with the parts of you that no one is asking about, or you don't want to tell anyone about. And it doesn't have to be fixing a problem. There could be nothing going on wrong, but it's just a safe place to express, and a place where you can work on things if you're struggling with. And when I started my therapy, I went to a free counseling center at my college. I went to University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, and I didn't have any money. So I went to their free counseling center. I went to a binge eating support group. And then I finally got connected to a real therapist. Luckily I had insurance because I was still under my parents. And so I started using my Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance to see someone who specialized in eating disorders. And what therapy taught me was, holy shit, it was not about my eating disorder. It was about my parents, the fights that I had to listen to, the ways that I was coping with trying to feel safe in the home, my tough relationship with them, how I built all these other problems within myself to distract me from problems at home. And maybe that's not everyone's reality, but we all can understand that, right? Like there are things we all want to escape from and numb out from. And therapy helps you realize, like, oh, it's tiring to keep running from yourself.
That's true. And my last question is, how did you seek help or know when to seek help?
Well, the hard part about my journey was I'd never heard about therapy. Like, I'm a little bit older than all of you, and I'm very jealous and happy for all of you that it's so cool almost to care for yourself. We didn't even have terms like self-care. Like when I was 19, Instagram was like really new. That wasn't a thing. And I only started going because my boyfriend at the time was like, I think you're like really unwell and it could help you to talk to someone. And I was ashamed, because if that's the reason you're telling me to go, then it feels like I'm broken. But you know what? Sometimes that's what gets us to go. What I wish would have happened was, nowadays it's so encouraged that if you have any thoughts or feelings or you don't have a safe space, there is a safe space to go to. And I didn't know that about therapy, that it could just be a safe space. It's not a place to fix yourself. So that was my way of beginning. But I would encourage all of you, if there's anything you want to say or work on that you don't have real support in your real life to get you through that specifically, it's kind of fun to go. It is. It's fun to work on yourself.
That's great. Thank you for sharing your experience, Kelly. So I'm going to pass it to Gabby for the next questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Isabel. Kelly, thank you for sharing so much so far. I'm going to take us into the next portion, which is content creation, which I'm sure a lot of folks have questions about. And if you see me looking over here, I'm just reading the questions out loud. So what inspired you to go to content creation as a career? I know you kind of touched about this a little bit earlier, but yeah, what inspired you?
Yeah, well, I'm also interested, for anyone here, does anyone want to be a content creator? You can just put in the chat, yes. I'm just so curious. But I'll answer if any of those come in. What inspired me to do it, I used Instagram as honestly a journal just for my struggles. Like, I just wanted people to understand that it wasn't just them dealing with body image and exercise obsession and binge eating, frankly, because influencers and being a content creator wasn't a thing even until like 4 years ago. Like, honestly, I didn't make $1 and I posted so many videos, so many posts. I was so about it and still am. And I had just been working a normal job in research at a school. What inspired me to do it was simply, selfishly, I wanted to know that it wasn't me alone dealing with all this and feeling like, honestly, a total loser in my real life. it was nice to know that there's people who understand me and feel me and can relate to me, even if they're hundreds of thousands of miles away. That is very powerful. And then two, altruistically, I did want to just help people, because if they have no one around them, if they don't have even a college counselor or a therapist to ever go to, they could see that I'm processing these things in therapy and can tell them what I'm learning, because I don't believe everyone has access to this stuff. And even if they do have access, it is super scary to still pursue that. So if they can get it for free, if I'm already living it, why not just tell everybody? But when I decided to go full time in 2021, it was, a year and a half after the pandemic started. Brands really started pushing a lot more money into influencer partnerships. I started working with Dove back in 2018, and that was one of my first biggest contracts. And I think that it just started to blow up and do much better. And so I was like, wow, okay, I can leave my real job, because you honestly make a lot depending on the brands you work with and what content you're putting out. You can make so much more money doing something like this.
Yeah, and from other influencers I've spoken with, they always encourage, if you are going to go into content creation, to start early, to build that following. Would you agree, or how was that for you in building your following?
Well, I had never intended to build a following, so I'm probably not an expert. I think for me and my brand and my social media presence, it really has been fully authentic and me just sharing, and I've gotten really lucky. But you have to have serious commitment and interest in what you're doing. It's not for followers. It's not for money. It's not for fame. It's, do you have a mission and a message and a big heart to do it? Because it is not that fun. It is a grind. You get very insecure. You get very attached to numbers and performance, but you also, what pushes you through is the passion for it, the passion for creating and editing and filming and talking to people and DMing and working with brands and emails and lots of computer time. So that would be, sure, start early, but you really have to know what you want to talk about and how to do all these things and the skill set to edit and take photos.
So for my next question, it's how did you navigate sharing your passion for content creation with your loved ones?
I think my parents are both Asian. My mom's Chinese, my dad's Japanese. They definitely are a little bit on the conservative side. Like, they're big performing type of amazing people, but I mean, who knows how to watch their kid post photos and talk about their deepest traumas and wounds? Like, I talk about my parents and the traumas that I've endured because of them on social media, because that's just life. It's very normal. I think it's great to discuss. And it definitely made them extremely uneasy in the beginning. They didn't really like it. They would say, are you telling people about this stuff? And what we've done or how you feel about us? And I would say, honestly, yeah, because it's my life. It's my story. And so many people are dealing with the same thing. No one has a perfect family. And I think that talking about you guys is the best way to express what's happened and how I'm healing. And they love it now, though. I mean, look at my life now and the things I get to do, and they're proud. But, in the beginning, no, they were not.
And you do include your mom in a lot of your content too. So she just seems like a huge supporter for everything that you're doing in content creation.
She's the best. They've both, you know what, I think all of us can agree to this too. If you are on social media and in the world, you have a really positive influence on your parents to kind of like their worlds open up a lot more, because they never had any of that.
Yeah. And I feel like you kind of destigmatize a lot of, airing out your dirty laundry, right? Like, there are people who relate. There aren't nuclear families. We have a lot of blended families nowadays, just everyone finding that system of support. And so in conjunction with that, my next question is, did you experience any pushback from family members or community members after you shared your interest in content creation?
You know what? I already explained the thing about my family, but a thing that I struggled with in college, because there were still no influencers yet, I was in a sorority at the time. I was living in a sorority house, and that was really weird because I had like 50,000 followers, but I was so embarrassed about what I was doing because I always wanted to fit in with like the cool girls. And I was having a really hard time making friends with these girls in this sorority house, but secretly I have this whole other world and like thousands of people listening to the things I say. So that's kind of something interesting. No matter what you're sharing online and how confident you might be, I learned that I still had a lot of work to do in the real world. And I did get some comments like, wow, you're sharing this on, wow, like you have all these faults. It wasn't in a nice way. Like it was kind of poking fun at me. And I do wish that I had been more confident in myself to say, yeah, I am, but I would definitely be really sheepish. And that's something I would encourage all of you. If you're going to start out posting whatever the hell you want, be like, I like this. It's me. I'm doing it. And anyone who makes fun of you is incredibly insecure.
And I feel like that goes back to, showing up as your 100% authentic self. And I know as the people on this call continue to explore themselves, taking ownership, and like regardless of what anybody says, just continue to show up as yourself authentically.
It'll always feel better. My whole life, I did not know how to do that. And I didn't give myself permission to do it. So I feel like I lost out on a lot of my life just because I was like holding myself back.
Thank you, Kelly, so much. We're going to go ahead into the Q&A portion with Youth Advisory Board member Malaika. And this is an opportunity for folks to engage with you. So I'm going to pass it over to Malaika.
Hello again, everyone. We will now be inviting all of you to submit questions to Kelly via the chat, and I will read them aloud for Kelly to answer.
Please ask me anything. I am an open book. There's no weird questions. It'll be weird if no one asks me a question. That'll be weird. Okay, guys? Okay. Are you gonna read it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It says, since you were active on social media during a time when influencers were not as prevalent, what do you think changed the most over the years? And do you think it changed for the better or worse?
I think the fact that we can make a living from being ourselves and posting about things we think are interesting or funny or cool or helpful, that's amazing. I do think, of course, the negative side of this is that we are so addicted to our phones and social media and comparison because we're always just looking at our phones. That's something I worry about, like my job and how I live, and it's scary. So, I mean, I don't love it. I think we would all just be better off if social media just died as a whole, but it's also something I like doing. So it's kind of a weird thing. Who do I look up to as a content creator? Should I answer that one? Okay. I love this content creator on TikTok. Her name is Christy Sarah. She's like a mom with 2 boys, and she's just funny. So, I mean, I do look up to like other therapists I follow and stuff, but I feel like when people are so authentically themselves and share little things that you think are so boring and mundane, that's the stuff I love. That's the thing I find brave and interesting, is like just normal daily stuff, but you found a way to make it really funny.
Thank you. And the next question from Imani, it says, was your family supportive of your decision throughout your hard times and good times?
When I was in college, I was in therapy, and my family and I didn't have that much money. I was working 3 jobs in college. I was washing dishes in the dining hall. I was working at a cultural center and another place on campus. And we just did not have enough money for me to continue doing therapy. And my parents really wanted me to quit. And I said, Mom, if I quit, I'm honestly not going to be here anymore. I was really struggling that much. So that's kind of hard when the stigma of therapy, with my parents who love therapy now, like they're so happy I've done it. I mean, they're all about whatever I do. And they're like, I'm so happy therapy saved you, when I wish they had just gone to therapy, that would have helped me a lot. That's hard to reflect on, because if I hadn't stuck to my gut and known that I had to keep going, they were not supporting me at the time. They regret that now. They feel bad now. They obviously support me through all my happiness and my success. And I think me going through therapy has also taught them to know how to talk to me about my feelings, and my sister too. I have an older sister. They're very much well-versed now to have deeper discussions that can make them uncomfortable, which I'm so proud of them for.
The next question is from Isabel. She says, what's your funniest experience that content creation has opened the door to?
Funniest experience? Funniest. Okay, well, you know what's interesting about having a blue check mark on social media, right? That opens a lot of doors for you. So if I'm a fan of someone or like someone, if they see I have a blue check mark, the weird thing about it is that for some reason it makes other people feel safe. So I've been able to get like certain big public figures or comedians specifically to follow me just because they think, oh yeah, she's like also part of this whatever world it is. My favorite comedian is Nikki Glazer, and I commented on her post before and she like followed me back, and that I freaked out. And I think a lot of those little moments have happened. I actually met Christy Sarah, the TikToker I just mentioned earlier, who's my favorite content creator at VidCon. And I ran up to her and I was like, oh, Christy, I just love your content so much. And she like thought I was a fan because I am. And then she was like, oh, what are you doing at VidCon? I said, oh, I'm speaking on 2 panels. And she's like, oh, really? And then she started following me and I didn't get over it for 3 days. So those are pretty funny to me because I mean, what is it? What does a blue check mark do? It's stupid. It's nothing. I'm not of their status at all.
Thank you for that answer. The next question is from Jolene. She says, how do you stop yourself from getting too into numbers / stats that come with content creating?
You know, honestly, things like this. Okay, so talking to all of you is really amazing and powerful and impactful because it's real things, like the real world, real conversations. And when we look at social media and we see someone with insane numbers, insane stats, a lot of it is just something really clickbaity or really funny or really extreme. And the things that carry us through life are the small moments, the things that are really powerful, meaningful, the small conversations, and the things that happen in real life. So for me, if I find my content isn't performing well or this or that, I do have a hard time, but I try to get back to my roots and say, well, what am I here for? Am I here to get a bunch of viral views, or am I here to help 10 people feel like I've helped them with some piece of advice or feeling seen?
Thank you. Next question is also from Jolene. She says, in your daily life, what are some things / hobbies you like to do for self-care?
So today, if any of you follow me, which I don't expect any of you to, I struggle a lot with digestive issues, bloating, constipation. And today is one of those days where I just have felt really, 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 really not good. And so before this, I was like, you know, I really want to be in a good mood when I come on here. I went for a little walk. It is 98 degrees outside. So that was kind of like painful. I went for like a 6-minute walk. And then I did a 20-minute, like I went on YouTube and looked up like bloating, digestive yoga. And what I encourage you all to do is if you're struggling on a day to confront something that's making your day harder, you know, I'd rather just lay in my bed and like watch Netflix, but doing those things helped me get more in tune with myself. Deep breathing saved me. It made my mood go from 0 to like 85, you know, and, that's really hard to do when you're struggling, is to care that much for yourself to want to do those things. And sometimes you don't want to do it. You actually have to force yourself to do it because you will not reap the benefits of it until you force yourself to do it.
And the next question is from Jolene again. She says, what do you think was one of the most important pieces of advice you got from a mentor, those around you, or your therapist?
I'll start with my therapist and then a mentor actually I just met with the other day. The best piece of advice I got from my therapist was the idea, and I mentioned this earlier, the parts of ourselves. I hated and still struggle with hating on a lot of different parts of myself. So one thing is, since I grew up really poor, I hate that I'm really cheap. It makes my life really hard. It makes me very anxious. And she's taught me like, well, what did that serve you in your life? Are you poor now? Are you doing better now, right? So some things that we struggle with are a service to us. I hate that I'm really perfectionist, right? A lot of you might be perfectionists in real life, but what are the benefits sometimes of being a perfectionist? Well, you're really proud of some work that you do. You know, you don't want to be a perfectionist all the time, but if you hate on the parts of yourself, it's just not going to get you anywhere. I hate the fact that I struggled with an eating disorder, but if I didn't have an eating disorder, I wouldn't have an Instagram thing to talk about, right? It's those things, embracing all the parts of us. And then a mentor I met with the other day, she is extremely successful as a consultant for big brands like Barbie, Aerie, Dove, Lululemon. And she was teaching me about how in order to put yourself in positions where you find yourself equal to a lot of people that are successful, you really have to put yourself in those spaces. And even if I feel like, even what I said earlier about when I met Christy, I felt like I was so inferior to her, but I went up to her still to say, hi, like I'm doing this. It's nice to meet you. When instead I could have just said nothing and ran away from her. So it's just taking those little steps to put yourself in places that you want to be at and having that confidence in yourself.
Okay, Isabel asked, what advice can you give people who want to start content creation, but don't think they have the means to do so? Being able to speak well, good ideas, connections, etc.
Well, when I started, I was not skilled in speaking. I had no connections and I had feelings, not ideas. I did not have content ideas. There was no such thing. So you all are spoiled in a way, and I'm happy for you. On TikTok, there's billions of people saying, here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea for TikTok. We had none of that. And you don't have to have those things to take action. A lot of us are sitting and waiting and procrastinating because we feel like in order to put it out there, it already has to be perfect. It's never going to happen. You're never even going to start with that mindset. So if you have feelings and thoughts and you can connect them with some kind of content idea that you see someone post a reel about or a TikTok, that's what you should do. Because who cares? What do you have to lose? Nothing.
Thank you. And our next question is from Gabby. She says, how can others find a mentor in content creation?
You know what? I think you actually have to pay people, you know, if you really want like a mentor with that, just because people's time has value. So if you don't want to do that, there are literally so many TikTokers and Instagram people who are their whole Instagram or their whole TikTok is about giving you tips. So study those, watch those, let your For You page to get filled with them. That's like your best free advice.
Thank you. And the next question is from from Gabby. She says, do you have any, actually it was from Jolene. She says, what do you think why do you think there's such a stigma against content creation and therapy?
Content creation specifically, I feel like people love to cringe at other people or say something. Does anyone follow influencers in the wild? Okay, it's this hilarious Instagram. Oh my God, what? Okay. It's this Instagram page. Everyone follow it. They like post videos making fun of people who are like filming something that's clearly for TikTok or clearly for Instagram or content. And it's so interesting to me that it's humorous to make fun of people who put themselves out there. And that shows a lot about people. And even my sister, I love her to death. My older sister sometimes like makes fun of me, even though she's super proud of me. And it shows me like some insecurity in people, and insecurity is normal, but we let people's comments and opinions of us stop us from doing things we want to do. And that's just like, that's pointless for us. And the stigma of therapy is people don't want to face themselves. So if they hear that you are facing themselves and they haven't done it, they are projecting their fear of doing it. That's honestly what it is, deep down.
Thank you for that answer. Another one's from Gabby. She said, do you have any plans to create content using Beyonce's new album?
I will look at it now that Gabby said it. Tell me which song. Actually, just tell me which song I should do.
Alien Superstar.
Put it in the chat so I don't forget. Thank you.
Okay, and I just wanted to ask by Matthew. He says, have you always been great at speaking in public, or have you taken any public speaking courses in college? And what is your advice for those who are not good at public speaking?
So, funny story. Well, I'll tell this first and I'll tell the reason why I think I might be pretty okay at public speaking. So when I was in college, I did take Public Speaking 101, which is a class a lot of people just have to take in college. And I did not do that well, which is really funny. I think it was because it was so academic, but I learned really nothing from that class. Not that the teacher wasn't great. I think just academic settings and stress did not do well for me. I'm pretty sure maybe I got a B or an A, but like I did not learn anything from it. The interesting thing about my life is my parents are actually performers. Like they have real jobs now. My mom, singer, actress. My dad, also singer, playwright, actor in musicals even. And so when I was growing up, I'm also a singer and I performed a lot. And so with doing that, my parents always trained me to be a good performer. And they taught me, you will always want to keep people wanting more, keep it concise, be very clear, eye contact, smile, know how to engage the audience. So I think it's really interesting that my past life really taught me how to speak. But when I first made videos on YouTube, I was really bad at talking. Like I would just talk for 50 minutes straight. It was really bad. Advice for anyone who is not good at public speaking, change your mindset. If you are already saying, I'm not good at public speaking, not going to get you anywhere. Say, I'm interested in learning how to be better at public speaking. You have to reframe that statement first off, right there. No one is bad at anything. It's just you haven't done it yet, done it enough, tried enough, practiced enough. That's all it is.
I can really relate to that because I have a hard time public speaking, but I'm trying to like get out of that mindset and get out of my comfort zone a little bit more. So I can really appreciate that. The last question from Jolene, she said, did you think going to college was worth it?
Oh, 100%. You know what? I think that the interesting thing between me and other content creators that maybe haven't gone to school or gone to college is that it must be hard to navigate a lot of professional relationships sometimes because you haven't gone through like a system. And I'm not saying they're not good at it. It's just such a different world having to go through like high school, college, having a real job, and it's not better or worse. It's just really different. And I really admire content creators that haven't gone through those systems because they've learned how to work really hard and go through a schedule and be successful. But I really love the times that I went to college because I feel like I really lived a very normal life where I had to struggle and go through all these things. But and, you know, I worked at the University of Illinois in a regular job for 7 years. So I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't go to college.
Thank you so much for answering all these questions. I'm going to pass it back to Gabby for closing.
Oh, unmute, babe.
Kelly, thank you so much, and everyone for joining us today at Sobriety, Social Media, and Self-Love. Kelly, do you have any last words you'd like to share with us before we close out this event?
Thank you all so much for having me. I definitely, like wherever stage you're at, everyone, first of all, I admire anyone who's came to this. I admire anyone who's worked on this. These were not conversations I would have been able to have at your age. I'm so impressed with the way you all are thinking and feeling and speaking. You are like light years ahead of where I was. And I love that you care about these things. And whatever you're going through in your life right now, know that your life is going to be so different in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. You will be a completely different, evolved version of yourself. And whether you're really sad right now or really happy right now, it will only get better. How old are you all in here?
They're all in high school, so 13 to 18.
Oh, I hated my life. Now 18, 14, 15, 17, 18, 25. And there's so much good coming for you. There's so much good that is in store for you. And I want you to pursue your mental health, self-care, take care of yourself, and whatever is going on, you have to be nice to yourself the whole time. Okay, that's the key that I was missing. So if you think you're sucking at this, you're failing at this, that mindset will make it so much worse. Please abandon that. I promise you, your life will get 10 times better every day if you just say, nope, not that, not that, not that.
I agree. Starts with self-affirming and speaking it into existence, right?
Right.
Kelly, thank you again so much for sharing your personal journey and just being very vulnerable with us in this space. Folks, everyone.
Oh no, can't hear you.
Dang, how did I mute myself? That was odd. Kelly, just thank you again so much for being in this space and being vulnerable with us and sharing your personal story. I dropped in the chat a survey. If folks on this call, if you could please fill it out, submit feedback for us so we could continue to do more programming like this. And also, if you have any kind words to share with Kelly, of course, please include it in the survey so we can share your feedback with her as well. I'm going to close us out and I'm going to put our thank you slide back up for everybody. Just give me 1 second as I multitask.
Yay. And you all, if you don't follow me, you can always you can send me a DM after this if you want to connect. Just look up Kelly U on Instagram and I'm happy to say hi.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. You're welcome to hop off, and the YAB members, please stay on as we exit this call.
Bye, everyone.
Still we not the red lights and nobody thinks every night a Friday. Oh yeah. General, when you touch the road, me and my empress and my brother, then I roll in a stranger. Herbs pretty like an emerald and 1 pound. Not several in the chalice, but we talk no Babylon to the vapor. Tell her them ready for the energy. We bringing every style of them a follow, yes, and we are the maker. Spending like I run, I think of Bolton. We come and remember every day of summer when you're there at Jamaica. Hold on, baby, this place kinda crazy. Oh, everybody a dance, catch the energy. Babylon can't stop the music. Rastafari keep